Peace to the saints. We have a fascinating interview today. I've told you all that it's a great focus of mine to bring on academics, to bring on thought leaders, to bring on those who are knowledgeable, because the internet, YouTube in particular, is in lack. And so I ran across a fascinating video. I reached out to the folks who produced it. And now I want to present to you, and I'm not going to say his name. I'm going to let him say his name and share a little bit on his academic pedigree. And then I want you all to pronounce his name correctly moving forward. Because are you Italian? Is that where that comes from?
So I'm Italian and I'm Greek. Vasilius, okay. That's the Greek part.
And the last name is the Italian part.
Yes, sir.
That makes perfect sense. Okay. Give us your full name and a little bit on your background, and then we'll get into it.
So hello, everyone. And thank you, Marquett, for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here to shed light on this topic that's been suspiciously depressed and overlooked in our society. So my academic background, the most notable thing for this topic of discussion is I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in neuroscience. But besides that, I do have a background in astronautical engineering, geology, and also business.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And for those of you who went to American public schools, summa cum laude means with highest honors in Latin, which is to basically say he's a bad man. You know, as far as his peers go, he was above them. That's what that means, in case you're wondering. Now, you said astro something or the other. What was that?
Astronautical engineering. So it has to do with the design and implementation of spacecraft outside the Earth's atmosphere. So I was in Rocket Club and a lot of chemistry, engineering, fun stuff. But neuroscience is where my heart led me the strongest.
Okay. All right. In other words, he's not dumb. Okay, fantastic. We'll have to have a little bit of conversation. I do want to get into this a bit, but I also think the person is important. For you, what drove you into neuroscience before we get into why you're here?
So I've always been interested in a lot of the sciences, and like I've explained, I kind of bounce around. But for me personally, 10 years ago this year, my cousin had passed away from a seizure. So at that time, that's when I started to wonder and think fully about the brain, consciousness, chemistry. So ever since then, I've been studying the brain, and that's what eventually led me to ending in neuroscience, I believe, after bouncing around.
All right. Well, let's talk about the human brain. And we do know that the female brain and the male brain have differences, as do the female body and the male body. Socially, we know that in the manosphere or among those dating coaches who talk on YouTube, they often speak about body count. And we think of this as like something that has social value or maybe value with regards to the girl's soul. But rarely do we truly consider the biological implications, not only for the woman, but also the child and the relationship. And this is going to be interesting. Let us take a look at that clip that started this conversation. Here we go. I'm going to play this from the start for you all, and do confirm with an A1 that you can hear the audio.
But nobody talks about
this real quick.
Women's body count matters biologically. I'm a neuroscientist. Let me explain. Studies show that women absorb and retain the DNA of every man they've been with via sperm. This foreign DNA has been found in the brain, organs, and reproductive system, but nobody talks about the consequences. And that DNA isn't just stored, it's used in creating future children. A woman's past men leave a permanent biological imprint. Ever wonder why some kids resemble an ex more than their father? This is usually why. While the father provides most of the DNA, genetic material from past men is also used. And it's not just looks. Physical and mental disorders can be passed down as well. The more men a woman has been with, the higher the risk of negative mutations in her future children. So ladies, your past doesn't disappear. Every man leaves a mark on your body and your future children. And fellas, think twice before having a child with a woman who's been with too many men, because you won't be the only one shaping that child.
Ooh. Listen, there was so much there we must unpack. But when I was in university, I came across some interesting ideas, namely those of eugenics, which increasingly seem a bit important today. And the term telegony came up, which I went to Berkeley, which is a school of Marx. And of course, there's certain ideas that they absolutely don't like, entire schools of thought that they disregard. And telegony certainly being one of those, which they attribute to racists and negative eugenics. They ignore the possibility of positive eugenics. And so with that being the case, what's your commentary on the idea that telegony has been disproven? A, has it been disproven? B, are you speaking of telegony? Talk to me.
So telegony is an outdated theory, an outdated term, to be more specific, that suggests that traits from females' previous partners can influence offspring of subsequent females. So that old school idea was dismissed because it lacked a genetic mechanism. So now we understand more into epigenetics and the molecular inheritance. Since we better understand that, the idea that they can influence the offspring is now becoming fact the more research we've done. So it's very exciting because there's going to be a lot of positive benefits for men and women when these tests develop.
So let's dig in a little bit. Are you suggesting that telegony, the concept is obsolete just because it was disproven, but it was disproven at the time wherein those who disproved it did not have enough science to actually draw that conclusion? Is that what you're saying?
So yes, in a way. So how the theory of evolution, when it was first promoted to the world, it had a slightly different definition than we have now. So we didn't necessarily replace telegony completely. It's under the umbrella of epigenetics now. It can be looked at in kind of four main sections is how I viewed it. So you can either get it through like sperm RNA and epigenetic marks, semen fluid and sperm-borne factors that it's not just the sperm, it's proteins, hormones, the small RNA molecules that can affect the reproductive tract, all types of stuff.
Okay. And let me see. So okay.
Basically, we just have a better definition of what telegony is because it's just outdated. There's a lot more to it than what that original definition was. Fair enough.
And what is it called today? If not telegony, what are we calling it today?
Through sexual intercourse in the video, it would have to do with RNA coding, DNA methylation, and like histomodification all together. And the more research we see on that, the more true it is, because a lot of the previous studies, they would leave out the last possibility of sexual intercourse. I'm not sure why, because they have all their other ducks covered. So if a woman has never had a child, has never had a brother, has never had an abortion, has never had an organ transplant or blood transfusion, and they're still finding a bunch of leftover male markers, where are they coming from? So it's interesting that around 10, 15 years ago, that was scrubbed and they don't want us talking about that.
There are a lot of things that they don't want us talking about. And I agree. There have been times I've done a Google search and now Google's using AI, which that's another discussion, but they'll pop up to the top and give a summary and the answer will be wrong. Or if you type in, what's the prime birthing age biologically for a human female? It'll pop up an answer that's not the answer based on the female's biology, but rather the answer based on the likelihood of the kid to be successful socially and emotionally and financially and all this stuff based on the parents. And even terms like, it's escaping me at the moment, but geriatric pregnancy, right? So geriatric pregnancy, they're now redefining it to push the age higher so that these women who are having kids later in life feel better about what they're doing. And so we're seeing that the science is taking a backseat, the truth is taking a backseat to ideology and propaganda. So that's why I'm really happy that you're here. You're going to inevitably use a lot of lexical and scientific terms. I ask you that you continue using them because I want people to have the correct, accurate answers. However, there's some terms that I think the masses should know. you mentioned epigenetics.
Yes.
Please elaborate.
Perfect. Because that's in this videos coming, we're going to be going a lot more into epigenetics, because that is when you're studying science theory, you always got to go with the predecessor so you know where you came from, so you can figure out where you're going. And epigenetics refers to the study of the changes in gene expression or activity that do not involve alterations to the underlying DNA sequence. These changes can affect how genes are turned on or off and can be influenced by environmental factors, lifestyle changes, or experiences. Importantly, epigenetic changes can sometimes be passed down to offspring, even though they don't involve changes in the DNA itself. So we can go over some of the mechanisms that include the regulation, like I brought up before, the DNA methylation, histone modification, non-coding RNA. There's a few other mechanisms that, if like a lot I always forget how to pronounce this properly, microchimerism, which was brought up a lot in the comments in the video that I saw.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to go through those comments. We're going to review the video a couple more times. We're going to go through the comments. And this time when I play the video, I'm going to stop it at certain parts just so we can digest it bit by bit. But let me know if this definition I'm going to give has been too simplified to the point of it not being functional. So I just want to make sure that the audience has something that they can hold on to and understand as we go. Is it reasonable to suggest that epigenetics suggests that environment can have impact on genetics?
Yes, even as far as to say our DNA is never solid. It is always mutating, evolving. Even air pressure changes. Somebody touching your skin will change it for, sometimes genes are turned on and off for seconds, minutes, hours, and years permanently. So yes, I think so. That would be.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Now let's take a look at this. And mind you, if you guys have questions, comments, feel free to send them in using the information below. We already have a couple comments, questions sent in. But let's just take this bit by bit, if you don't mind, and then we'll get deeper. But
disturbing, alarming, let me know in the comments. Why women's body count matters biologically. I'm a neuroscientist. Let me explain.
Now, the first thing that we have to deal with is, you say women's body count matters biologically, which is science. And theoretically, you shouldn't be able to argue with science. But I imagine you get a lot of people pissed off and they're arguing not necessarily against you, but against the actual truth.
So, yeah, the original intent behind the video was not to make people upset, was to kind of give both sexes a warning or just information on there on how, if they look into the biology past Reuters and Snopes and all those things, there is a lot of truth to that, which is found in scriptures and stuff as well. A lot of people in the comments were posting how different Christianity, Islam, everything.
Mm-hmm. I find that to be really fascinating, and increasingly, as I mature and observe the world and observe people, it's just undeniable that spirituality is important to humankind. And there are some things that are embedded in human culture, whether it's our speech culture, music, or what have you, that it just lets you know that we might not necessarily, or shall we say, consciously understand something, but we just know that it's wrong. The idea of a woman having a high body count. Now, I'm guessing a lot of average guys are not neuroscientists or biologists, but they instinctively know it's wrong. There's this gut feeling that it's wrong. For the Muslims in Arabic, they'll say fitra, your natural sense of right and wrong. The Bible speaks of maintaining chastity. And there's just something embedded in human culture that is strictly against women being promiscuous. And now we have the science that's explaining why it actually, like how it manifests physically.
Yes, it's physically, and it's, I think, giving us a more solid understanding of what's happening in society as well, on the downfall of the traditional woman, from what we see that the average American woman is now is not what they used to be, and it's changing the men as well. And I'm sure you say the studies, it's men are giving up, or they become simps, for a simpler term, and they will just take whatever abuse the man or the man will take. And I believe I saw in one of your videos, the men are fine with being a slave to the woman.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good that will come from these future tests that will say not only how many bodies the woman has, but exactly who those men are. And we will
preach. I'm here for it.
And then it will also be able to identify some of the genetic traits that are passed down that could be negative. Because I did think about also portraying the side of, oh, maybe it's good, but everything that I understand about genetics, that that it's random. So if I want the most pure chance for my child coming into the future, and I did everything I could as a man to make sure, you want to make sure you're with a woman who can also give you that same purity, because she has a Cracker Jack box of things she's just pulling out of and throwing it in there. And it will help because women won't have to be accused and won't have to worry about being lied to. So these tests are going to help everybody. We're really close to doing it.
You know, this stuff is fascinating. And I've even looked at research about how long semen stays in the female body. And I've seen things like up to 5 days the semen can stay in the female body, which has been an important conversation that I've had with the folks who follow me, because when you're dating, which, you know, what does that mean to anyone nowadays is a very blurry thing. But when you're dating and the woman considers herself not exclusive, if she's sleeping with multiple guys, and unfortunately, I don't think people are using condoms on a regular basis. I don't think guys use them unless they're sleeping with prostitutes. I don't think women use them unless they're very, very sexually active and they consider themselves a slore. Otherwise, if, you know, there's some emotions involved, I think maybe they'll use it the first time, but not the second time. And so I just don't think condoms are being used at the inappropriate rate, given the realities of female promiscuity and some of the low things males sink to in terms of, you know, engaging with women of the night. With that being the case, and the semen, according to research I've seen, the semen stays in the woman's body for 5 days. Now you're talking about DNA, but that's just filthy. Like that's just on a simple level, it's just filthy and unclean. Now, can you elaborate on if that makes sense? Like what we've been seeing in popular science, saying that the semen stays in the female vagina 5 days, because you're saying the DNA sticks around. So how does it come out in different parts of the woman's body? You mentioned it's been found in the brain and all these other things.
So from what I have researched, as far as semen being able to stay alive in the body, has been up to 7 days, which I agree is not very attractive and pretty disgusting when you do think about it, especially if you're with a woman who is dating multiple men, because more than likely you're mixing it all together. Yeah. So you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get a conglomerate of who knows.
Not the conglomerate. That's disgusting. Oh boy. Okay.
But once the semen is broken down, because everything, if you look at any cell die, like under a microscope, basically they kind of die and explode, and then the other cells will take up and use the biomolecular motors and things inside, which part of it is the RNA and everything when it's ripped apart. And one of the new studies I was actually reading again before we came on here, because I'm putting together a bigger list of all the other DOIs for all these further videos. So we're gonna teach people how to read and interpret these, on how it even is carried in the bloodstream for a few days. So I think it may be via bloodstream first, and then it's distributed everywhere else. So I think that might be a good place to start to see its route to where eventually it's going to sit and be used for who knows what, because there's other studies that I've read where they're finding higher concentrations of male RNA that's different, maybe giving women a higher chance of Alzheimer's. So there, and overall, and it makes sense. You can get many sicknesses through sex and other things, and we're finding new things all the time. So that's also a scary thing with the future testing is we're going to find a lot more lifelong, permanent, mental and physical things that are passed down that we will have to watch out for.
No, that's really fascinating, because what you've suggested is that the concept of a sexually transmitted infection or disease has now gone beyond the things that we would expect, the chlamydia, the HPV, the fill in the blank with all the things we're familiar with. And you're saying it can actually go beyond that to things we don't associate with sex itself or the sexual apparatus.
Yes, it's a STD, but it's we have to create a new term for that, because we have not labeled it. It's like a genetic STD, because even they've witnessed behaviors in children that have nothing to do with the father that fathered the child. So they're finding, and it could be from the first one, and from my read, it's the first one, I believe, that has the strongest genetic pairing with the woman. I want to do more research on that. But it does make sense through societal knowledge that we've known for thousands of years. And science is only good as the accuracy of like its measure at the time. So as we develop new technologies, our science is going to improve. And with AI and now the new quantum computers, it's only going to be a few more years.
I'm going to have to get some stock tips from you in a second. Let's go ahead and take a pause for the cause and see what questions folks have. Again, if you want to just support great work like this, you can send the information below. If you have a question, send it below. If you want to just say, hey, thanks for having a brain and sharing it with me, you can send that below. Let me acknowledge, shout out to T, writes, curious to see the science behind this. You know, he does have sources with him, which I trust he'll share. Now, the question is, will you understand it? When you read it? I will pray for you. Shout out to Woodsters, comes in by PayPal. He writes, tuition, peace to the saints. This should be a great intellectual discussion. I take my seat at the front row of class. To the guests, my humble welcome. Absolutely. And it's a pleasure to have him. Gwinsley writes, for Mr. Della Chiopa, is it Chiopa?
Della Chiopa, yes.
Della Chiopa. He writes, what are your thoughts on live blood cell analysis for diagnosing illness and general well-being? That's the first part.
So it'll be amazing. When we implement all these new features on top of this existing technology, we're not going to have to wait. We may be able to do it at home. We may be able to have a kit ordered to the house, test the blood, because it's going to save time, money, heartache.
You know, you said something that we should have dove into before I even started this, but it feels good, but it also hurts. It hurts because the science is coming out a little bit late. The girls surely aren't informed. The guys, we've always wanted a virgin, unless we're mentally ill. And you stated that perhaps the first man there has the greatest imprint on that female, genetically speaking. Is that right?
Yes, I do believe so, because there's evidence that with the certain proteins and molecules in the semen fluid that it leaves an imprint on the female system. So it affects how they even respond to future sperm in subsequent mates. So including the characteristics. So even though it's still in its early stages, all the growing evidence, we see it in insects, we see it in fish, we see it in rodents, we're going to see it in humans. So it's only a matter of time before we develop a better microscope.
Wow. Right. Say that part. Wow. So you're saying we're looking at an ocean metaphorically, and we know that there are a lot of things in that ocean. We just can't get to the depth to have that visibility right now, but we know there are things there that will be discovered in the near term. And
it's exponential too, because it can become it is genetics, but also when it becomes that woman's frame of mind her children are most likely going to be like that. So if the woman sleeps with a bunch of men and, to be nice, we'll say dilute her DNA, her child.
Don't be nice, be honest.
I try to be. But if we take a dilution and then we have children, so that child is going to have a diluted imprint, and then she's going to be promiscuous and further dilute the imprint, and then so it's an exponential. And I feel like that's why we're seeing intelligence drop, morality, common sense, because there's a lot of people who are reading those DOIs that said there's no DOIs. And I was like, you're reading the DOI.
You heard of, I shouldn't even say have you heard of, but dysgenic fertility.
Dysgenic fertility. No, I have not.
Okay. And I'll just, I'll give an AI explanation of dysgenic fertility. I'm sure you know the concept. You just might not have come across this particular term. We know a lot of this stuff has been associated with schools of thought that are considered racist or considered passe or considered this or that. And so large pieces of knowledge are hidden from us. Truth. Dysgenic fertility is a term rooted in eugenics. So of course, eugenics, that's supposed to be bad. That suggests a negative correlation between intelligence and fertility, implying that people with lower intelligence are having more children, leading to a decline in the overall genetic quality of a population. And listen, respectfully, all of the smart people I know, they're like, oh, I want to wait till I make this much money to have kids, or I want to get this promotion, or like some chick, I want to finish my PhD, and maybe they have one kid, which isn't even replacement. And then down the street, you got El Dumb Fucko, and man, they're having kids left and right. And ironically, the smart person, the intelligent, capable person who earns well, but is heavily taxed, their idea is that I want to make more money before I have kids. And the tax man, government, takes their money, allocates it down here so that the goofballs can have as many kids as they want, subsidized by the state. So it's ironic because they're waiting to have enough money to have kids when they clearly do, because their money's being reallocated for these people down here to sustain their kids.
Exactly. You've seen the videos yourself online. The women will brag about it. They love it. Countless and countless times they brag about how many men they can get, how much child support they can get from each man, how many benefits they can get from the government. And wow, do they throw a fit when they lose any of their streams.
Any of it, right? Oh my. Now let's talk a little bit about something you had mentioned before. We have a lot to go, and folks, do forgive us because this is not a paper. These concepts are complex. They are concepts that, generally you want to read through in a proper scientific journal or article. And so we're having conversations. So, just work with us because this is fascinating, and we might, jump around a bit, largely due to me. So let me know if this makes sense. So I'm dealing with a young lady, and let's not even say she's promiscuous. Let's just say I'm dealing with a young lady. We have intercourse without protection, and fluid is exchanged. And then sometime later, you're dealing with her. And as we can see between you and I'm bald, you have hair. So you have a son, and he doesn't come out black, but he starts to experience premature male pattern balding. Could that be due to me as opposed to you? Because we dealt with the woman that I was with. She's now with you. You procreated with her.
So technically, yes, but then also too, we would have to take my inheritance into fact. Do I have premature balding? Did I just get lucky? Did it skip a generation?
Right.
So in my case,
take the presumption that you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then there's a slight chance it could come from her side too. So that's what makes it hard right now. That's what makes it hard right now. That's why we need the testing, so we don't have to, to wonder that, because a lot of people are going to have hair or they're going to be balding early. So those are harder to distinguish. But if it's like a super rare genetic disorder that only 0.1% of the entire population has, and X you slept with 5 years ago has that disease and now your kid does, that would probably I would say that they should look into that a little bit more too, because that'd be a more rare instance.
So given in the state of the current science, causality would be easier to establish if you're dealing with very rare ailments. Whereas
right now,
currently, with advances in science and computing, it would be possible to identify that the son that you had is experiencing premature male pattern baldness, not due to you, not due to the lady, but due to Jack that she slept with, years ago before even meeting you.
Exactly. And if we have these tests done, when you do that, like, oh yeah, your bald hair or your bald head isn't from you, it's from Jack. Exactly. Like, we're going to be able to make that distinction immediately right away. And it's going to help overall for overall health for people as well. Because then you're going to know exactly what you're very susceptible to. We already have testing like that you can see which cancers you may or may not get depending on if a certain gene is activated or not.
All right. Now, my favorite movie, I'm going to give you a guess at this. My favorite movie is a dystopian science fiction movie. What is it? It's somehow related to this conversation, these concepts.
Oh. So
in the chat, you guys can guess as well.
Was it a book?
I don't know. I don't want to say it wasn't, because most great films are, but the dialogue did not read like literature. So I don't think it was.
A Brave New World?
No, that is a fine piece of literature. You ever heard of Gattaca?
No, I've not read
Oh, listen to me.
or seen this.
You're going to thank me for this. This is a phenomenal film recommendation. Gattaca is a film that stars Ethan Hawke, Jude Law, and Uma Thurman. Fine piece. Very inspirational, but heavy on the science fiction genetics concepts. You're going to love it. Let me know what you think when you check it out.
Absolutely.
And if anyone in the chat is seeing Gattaca, let me know what you think. Okay, cool. Now let's see what else folks have said. Gentleman writes, please feel free to provide your thoughts and any experience as well, Mr. Burton. Thank you. I'm going to yield the floor to the expert here. He writes, this is a perfect backdrop for a lunch run. Understood. May I also acknowledge, let's see who we got. Darius writes, looking forward to the knowledge from this partnership. Absolutely. And it's very functional, which I appreciate. He writes, has our guest heard of the song Many Men? Also, I wonder how many people from around the world may look knowing the results of this kind of histomodification. Huh. Okay, curious.
That does remind me of the funny song, have they ever heard I'm My Own Grandpa? Speaking of genetics with these conglomerates walking around. And in the comments, they were calling them Petri dishes, which I thought was pretty funny.
And not entirely off. Shout out to Caleb. He writes, showing love for you and the guest, peace of the saints. May I also acknowledge Dominic. He writes, the masses hate the truth while standing up for the lies. Just shut up, listen, and learn. Oh, agree. Let's see who else we got here. Shout out to Joshua writes, keep cooking, Saint. Take your time. For something like this, we really must. And that's one of the beauties of not having to be on television and have commercials running. We can really take our time with this conversation. Shout out to the triple baller alert. Kyle comes in with the baller alert. He writes, peace to the saints. I'm about 15 minutes behind, but this is absolutely fascinating. It really is. And that's why I reached out, because I knew that you need to be platformed. You need to be supported. You need to be protected, because the forces of evil that are going to rise up against you it'll be an armada of demons, of liars, of pseudoscience, of everything you can imagine that will try to take you out. You're going to be anti-LGBTQ. You're going to be a racist. You're going to be misogynistic. You're going to be homophobic. You're going to be every bad thing in the book, merely for trying to bring information that goes counter to the narrative that is being pushed in the mainstream.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate the support, and I feel the love from you, from the community that follows you as well. I was defended quite a bit in the comments.
Yes, sir.
There are many DOIs that I screenshotted, so thank you everybody who were posting those in there. We'll be going over those as well, because there were some very good ones. And I am going to not stop promoting the truth.
Don't stop. Shout out to Carter. He writes, Peace of the Saints. Imagine the testing for this proves these concepts to be true. And now you're on the hook for child support for a woman who got pregnant 7 years after you banged. This man is sinister.
There may have to be a percentage law or something on like how much percentage of the child is yours, maybe.
You can have fractional shares in the child.
Yeah.
You need a brokerage account to manage your children now, huh? Oh, this is crazy.
The future will be fun.
Oh, this is scary. Okay. Shout out to EJ. He writes, for the reply value, thank you. Thank you to the both of you. Peace to the saints. Joshua comes in supporting the work via PayPal. Appreciate you. Oh, and by the way, you actually have a website that everyone should check out. And there's some hilarious merch on there. So it is linked in the description, and the website looks like this. If you're curious, I'll just make sure you know you're getting to the right one. Boom, looks like that. Then if you click shop now, pulls up the merch. And I thought this was funny right here. Like this particularly crap. Body count matters biologically, right? Like, oh goodness.
Shout out to the comments for that as well.
Absolutely.
That was their idea.
You're responding to markets. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, let's get back to this IG real quick. Let's take a look at the comments real quick. We still haven't even made it through the video because I want to comb through, but you mentioned the comments. Let's go through. First, I'm going to read this if you don't mind. This video contains sensitive and controversial biological information. These are not personal opinions. Now, it's funny that you have to say that, but rather a presentation of scientific data. Did you know that a woman's past partners can permanently affect her future children? In this video, we break down why women's body count matters biologically. Every man she's been with leaves a lasting biological mark on her DNA and as a result on her future offspring. From physical traits to genetic disorders, and the consequences are far-reaching. Wow. Does the body count matter? How many is too many? You know what? How many is too many?
So, since you're going to make me answer that question, genetically speaking, if I want to give my child the best chances at life, after I worked my ass off to make sure my genetics are as good as they can, you're going to want 0.
Right.
Now, realistically, is it possible? It's getting rare.
Very rare, unless she's in the 3rd grade.
Yeah. Especially here in the States.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but yeah, if you just want the best for your child, it's going to be 0. Simple as that.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that for you, gentlemen, in case you didn't catch that. The man has spoken. He says that essentially, if you would like your child to be the closest result from the pairing of you, the man, and the woman that you've impregnated, you would want 0 men to have laid with her before you. And I think that makes perfect sense because 1, maybe your ex was a goofball or a psychopath. And 2, if he wasn't, there's so many surprises that may be in his DNA that you don't want to be surprised with. So I totally agree. And I hope that we start sharing this science in primary school and we start pushing this out socially, because this is important stuff. And it also verifies the reason that women should not be promiscuous. It's not just because guys are jealous and guys are insecure. It's actually deeper than that. It's scientific, it's spiritual, it's social. And this is just really fascinating stuff. Let's get back after it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Okay. And then you have some citations here. This name even sounds like it's Nigerian or something. Ignatius, definitely not, but this is Japanese or Nigerian. What is that?
I believe he is from Nigeria. Yes, I believe it is.
All right. Sexual intercourse and genetic integration. So there's a source, that's called a source, ladies and saints. That means you've researched and you're using information that you did not create, information that is vetted by the scientific community. These things usually go into journals, which are peer reviewed. Who are the peers? Other scientists. So you can't make things up the same way you can do on the internet. And here's a couple more sources as well. Now let's go to the comments. The best comment I've seen so far is from Marquett Devon. And he writes, what is this scholar's name? I'd like to interview. And we were able to make that happen. That's a beautiful thing. The gentleman writes, "You look deeply disturbed and in need of a nap." Oh, that's not a gentleman. That's a woman. That's a woman. Is anyone surprised? Oh, she has went straight to the insults.
Yep.
Why do you think? I'm just curious. You were talking about genetics. You were sharing scientific data. Why do you think she's commenting on you need a nap? You look disturbed. What does that have to do with what you were saying?
So I'm not really sure, but as you're like, a lot of people go to ad hominems when they become unhinged or they can't find the information fast enough. So unfortunately, their mouth speaks before they think.
It's just so sad. And I just also want to say my views don't reflect the views of our guest. These are the things that make me think, oh, I hope you're not voting. I just really hope you are not voting, because it's so blatant that you're a promiscuous woman. Because if you were a virgin currently, or you got married as a virgin, you'd read this research and have an open mind, or you'd read this research and say, okay, good, I did the right thing. But if you're a promiscuous woman, then look at this guy. He looks like he's sleepy. Take a nap, buddy. It's like, come on, love.
And that's why I said it's kind of like obvious which males are getting upset at which females, because the females, it aligns with their life choices, and the men are, shorten it down in layman's terms, they're simps. So
full stop.
Yeah.
The scientific term for that is simps.
And by the way, that last, I did look it up. He is from Nigeria. Yes.
Okay. Very good. I'm clever out here. Now, for the record, I'm not Nigerian. I'm a foundational Black American. I just happen to be knowledgeable. Okay. Now let's carry on. Here's where it gets interesting to me. So let's see. I'm just scrolling past this one. This guy writes, "Why you look like I think he meant your. You see, they often can't speak English, these people. You look like you," he writes, "you body count." I think he meant your body count involves bodies in the basement. It's funny, but completely nonsensical and unhinged.
Yeah.
Then we have
some of the comments that we did back to that got some laughs as well.
You replied?
I replied to the first one and this one. If you click at the top first couple, I replied to them. And like all the main ones, I replied to. I authored a few of the funnier ones.
No, you're worse than me. No, you're worse than me. This man writes, "It looks like you could benefit from a good workout." And the people loved it. The people loved it. Oh, this is good.
That next one was funny too. And then what people come up with, they're very clever. They're very funny.
He responds, "That's quite the correlation. Your body count seems to match the number of meals you've consumed." Oh God. Okay. So you're a scientist. You also have a sense of humor, and these things often don't come together.
Yeah, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. When I made the videos, I realized I didn't blink, and I was just like, eh. But a lot of people commented, "You don't blink, you're AI." People were commenting at you saying he's a cheap AI. Why are you trying to? That was funny. It was entertaining.
Oh, goodness. This guy writes, "This is blatantly untrue and has been debunked numerous times. Literally curious. Okay. Just a Google search confirms this. Source is Reuters." Now, this is really interesting to me because, like, just real quick, let's see who's saying this, right? Maybe this guy is also a neuroscientist. Maybe. I'm just curious. Okay, so we have someone whose name is Swagmaster, and his photo is of a cartoon. And he has no photos of, I have a feeling it's this guy right here. It's this guy right here. Yeah, I can't say I trust someone who looks like that, just me personally. But also, yep. It's
those bunny ears.
Yeah, it's that guy. And let's see if he's listed his educational pedigree in his. No, he's a gamer. Okay, fantastic. Very productive individual, contributing to society. And he says the source is Reuters. So he's basically sending us on a dummy mission, which is like almost impossible to find the actual source he's maybe referring to. He didn't give the title of an article. So we got some immature dude who plays video games, probably hasn't gone to university at all, much less even a proper degree in science or medical field. And he's telling you you're wrong and suggesting that you're an idiot because you're going through theories that have been debunked.
So yeah, I noticed anytime I searched the profiles and I looked at damn near all the comments going through for notes, and not one was a scientist or a PhD or an MD. But here's the thing, quite a few PhDs and MDs and professors agreed. And I would have appreciated if they threw out some more information, but I understand if they're working at university, that can be a major problem for them. So I do appreciate them at least agreeing.
Right, because universities are very liberal, so it actually is not in their interest to share unpopular opinions, even if they are in fact backed by science.
Yes, absolutely.
And for those of you who don't know, if you guys don't mind, we would just like to share something with you called the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias that causes people to overestimate their knowledge or abilities. Yes, indeed. Which is basically to say stupid people don't know they're stupid. Okay. Yeah. Dumb people have not the foggiest idea of how dumb they actually are, which is why you can have an imbecile who spends his time playing video games and eating cup of noodles, thinking that he's smarter than someone who is summa cum laude. Now, me personally, nowhere near summa cum laude, not at Berkeley, not at Johns Hopkins, nowhere near the top. Now, I was just there. But, you know,
yeah, I don't know. You're a pretty smart man.
man, I was just showing up, man. I was just showing up every day. They say showing up is half the battle. But let's get back to this. And, you know, I agree with you. And I actually do have a fear of the world becoming more idiotic. And I think that social media has not helped us with that, just not even from a sense of intelligence, but just a sense of information, in as much as those without the truth, if they have a bigger platform, they don't have to have a bigger grip on the truth. And because of that, they can drown out informed opinion. You may be aware that there were Harvard physicians, Johns Hopkins physicians during the COVID situation who were silenced, in some cases penalized, had their jobs taken, and they actually were speaking accurate in terms of the scientific truth and facts.
Absolutely. That's why also when I commented back to certain people when they would try to address Reuters or Snopes or any of those things, I would tell that's not, it's hard to explain. That's not a real source, because they think if you just put a web link in, it's the same as a DOI or research. So to them, it's all the same. So trying to give them a course on that and also tell them this is, one source was real, but at a time it was fake. And now with COVID, all the doctors, like you said, and physicians, that's why I will not go get a license, because then they can stop me from working. They can ruin your life. And it's not worth it to push fake science, because I have principles and morals that I am not going to lie. I went head to head with some professors sometimes, but at the end of the day, we did it professionally and we got our work done. And yeah, it's hopefully it gets better and people are able to understand the research more, because people, and they got to understand with ChatGPT, this is how we were able to catch students cheating. If you take even a DOI and put it in ChatGPT and say, explain this to me, it will not give you even the correct article for that DOI. I had to double check these because a lot of students would try to pass it off, and you can tell by reading it usually, especially if you know they're not a scientist, like it's pretty detailed. So, and then you know it's wrong too. It's a wrong interpretation. Like somebody in the comments said, the first one was referring to cats. Their cat was not mentioned one time in the study. I don't know where they got that. So I hope it's not going to get worse, but I do have a feeling it's going to, as far as overall, because we're already at a 4th grade average reading level in America. That's not good. And I'm sure you've seen the test scores. You've posted some other videos like recently. It's what's happening to the kids in school. My honest opinion now, I was against homeschooled for a long time, but if people can find a good platform to teach children science, math, engineering properly without bias and without polluting children's minds before they should, they don't need to be hearing about what sex. That's another thing. If you are a scientist and you say a man or a woman can physically change into the other, nobody should ever listen to anything you ever say. You are not a scientist. If you push that vaccine, you are not a scientist. There was no research on anything. So that's what I tell people too, including your MDs. If your MD push it on you, get a new MD because they're part of it. In biomedical research ethics, I studied a lot in the ethics of all the research done in this country. And we found, and in our own textbook, 89% of all American research has been proven to be fraudulent, not negligent. But
oh, God.
So
repeat that, please. Repeat that one more time.
In my biomedical research ethics class, we learned, even in the textbook, that 89% of all American studies have been proven to be fraudulent, not negligent, but fraudulent. That means it was not done on accident. It is done purposely. I'm guessing for monetary value.
I think you're a good guesser. I think you're a great guesser. I remember when I was a youngster and they kept confronting us with the pyramid, the dietary pyramid, only to find out that was inaccurate. Like, oh, okay.
Actually upside down. The worst thing you can do, other countries make fun of us. I just got back from Greece a couple months ago. I have a bunch of family there and you travel the world. It's embarrassing. You can know who's American just by looking around and walking around because half of us are fat. And then what is in our food is horrible. And oh man.
Yeah. Bro said the food pyramid's wrong. Yeah.
And that's where I was going to go with that. I'm sorry. How everybody is pre-diabetic. Everybody needs Ozempic. To get rid of pre-diabetes, you don't eat sugar. You work out. You have fruits and vegetables. It's very, very simple and easy. They've known this everywhere else in the world. And in our food pyramid, they tell diabetics to have oats in the morning. They tell them to have bread and sugars. That's the absolute worst thing you can do for somebody who's pre-diabetic.
Let me get the audience and see what these folks are saying. Shout out to Mr. Buck supporting the work. Mo Wellness writes, word of the day, telegamy. Shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Tadic supporting the work. May also acknowledge Manny Fresh writes, multiple studies have shown women have a decreased cognitive awareness of unattractive men. Not surprising. Probably short men as well, right? Given that, is there a possible correlation of telegamy on this effect in a way of increasing its effect? Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like I said, future testing, it's going to tell. It's going to be very easy. It's going to have thousands of variables and categories. And
I had a buddy, and I couldn't bear to read the book. We were on our way up to Tahoe. My buddy Mark, we're in university, and he was talking about a book called Semen Wars. You ever heard of this?
No.
Okay, yeah. Just based on the title, I was like, bro, I don't want to read that book. It doesn't sound like anything of interest. But he was positing that in the book, it forced the idea that, essentially different men's semen that's in the vagina at the same time is at war with one another. And I think this is really fascinating in that it is really very much so a struggle of survival, and that man's DNA lasting in that woman's bloodstream and in her body, it just shows just the eternal struggle in life for existence and for propagating your species. And so it's just really fascinating stuff. Shout out to Manny. He writes, semen also evolved the ability to fight other semen. So sleeping around isn't new. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, whores have already always existed. Shout out to Kevin writes, dilute her DNA is accurate. Acknowledge Will. He writes, peace of saints. While I love this new information on a scientific level, we will have to get more behavioral psychologists showing the downfall of the hookup culture for women. I am all for admonishing these promiscuous women. I would like to condemn them as well. Shout out to Chung. He writes, does he have a company I can buy a share in soon, right? May I acknowledge Narc writes, Dr. G. Amaru Ali of the Aboriginal Medical Association also speaks to this topic. Check bro out. I tell you what, tell bro I want to bring him on for an interview. I'd be happy because I really want to forward these ideas because they're important and they're definitely going to be suppressed. Shout out to Jacob. He writes, thank you for looking into and sharing this information, Vasilios. By the way, the host's name is pronounced Marquett. You know, and
I am so sorry.
Yeah, think nothing about it.
Marquett, I am so sorry.
And I want to make sure I'm getting yours right as well. Vasilios.
Yes, sir.
Vasilios, fantastic. And you know, when you told me your name, I was thinking, Greek, Italian. And so that makes perfect sense. And I know you just got back from Greece. Greece is one of the places I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, the culture is very different. As you know, it's a little more laid back and slow. The complete opposite from America. So it took me getting a little used to when I was first there.
Yeah. And friendly, genuine people. I like the way they relax. I like the way they enjoy each other. I like their openness. Definitely a different kind of European, right? Like, you know, as you're moving up north, you're getting into Germany and the Nordic countries, the Greeks are just night and day from that time, that type, warmer, very much so enjoy. I'm actually considering getting a place over in Greece. Shout out to Issa. He writes, the doctor is proof that the real ninjas ain't always ninjas. This Muslim brother appreciates you, Marquette. High level FBA all day. Oh my goodness. Shout out to Maddie. He writes, I don't think it's that radical of an idea. Mad cow disease is caused by consuming prions that cause neurodegenerative diseases. Why couldn't large amounts of semen? I just hate that you... Anyways, yes, agree. Shout out to Sweet Auntie writes, breakfast being the most important meal of the day was a study funded by Kellogg's. That's the kind of thing just breaks your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the more access we have to the information, luckily there are some people who are going to disregard it, and then there are some people who realize that. And I think that brings us back to the point of the degrading of the American average intelligence, because they should be able to look at, if Kellogg's did a study, that it benefits them directly, but they don't see that for some reason.
And when Kellogg's is really good at what they do, you don't know that it was a Kellogg's study.
Yes.
And when I was, headlong in business, we used to produce a lot of white papers. And that's when I started to figure out that, okay, a lot of research is funded by the people who need the research to say a certain thing. And it is, when you really think about it, a bit peculiar for that for-profit corporations are producing white papers on certain social issues. So this is not new. This will increase. And the challenging part is that, and I'm all for small government, but we do need, whether it's government or it's academic institutions, to be able to play that middle ground and be objective. But the challenge is that your government is victim of lobbies and your universities are victim of donors. And so it's just really hard to find out what the truth is. And universities need funding, right? They need their endowments to be filled up with money. And where does money come from? It comes from corporate. You know, it comes in, whether it's corporate, the corporation itself, or it's the individual that owns the corporation. So it's really tough. And I think that this is how we see our tax dollars misallocated. Like, for example, the fact that the presidential debates are hosted by private corporations, news networks, as opposed to the government saying, we're going to live stream this without any commercial so that everyone in America who's in the democracy, the republic, can get the information and vote. So I think that now, maybe it's not new, but to be an honest person is a radical concept. It's a revolutionary concept. Like, you cannot be an honest scientist without being political.
I agree. Even in some of my classes, one of my intro biology classes years ago, they tried to force us to write about and push global warming in our biology class. And I was like, well, unfortunately, I've already taken a lot of geology classes years before that, and one of their colleagues can explain to them very easily that go look at the ice core samples, yada, yada, yada. It's actually a lot lower. We don't need to get into that, but it's that same type of thought process that goes along with geology, biology. And when I was in Greece, I met so many other people educated in other countries, and I was embarrassed. The average person there is light years ahead of us. And we need to figure out how we can implement some of the good things from society and those desires upon regular people, because what people want now, they want to be OnlyFans models. Yeah. They want to be the like, I don't know what they are, the trickster YouTuber people.
Pranksters,
pranksters, yeah. And those are the simp people that end up with the OnlyFans people, and now,
no, that was deep. That you connected that, and I don't think that a lot of us, like, I mean, that's never been my intention, so I haven't thought too much about it from that perspective. But that's kind of full circle for them, right? It's like the girls go out and get all these surgeries so they can be a bad bee. And then they get the OnlyFans using their fake body parts, and they run the money up, and they become somebody to the simps. And then the simps become these pranksters so they can get fame and then match up. And this is like two fake immoral people coming together to achieve their dreams. Nightmares for everyone else. Yeah,
exactly. And it's messing with their mentality so much that the women have done so much cosmetic surgery that it's given a lot of men here a weird filter on what like a real woman even looks like. I was brought that up a few times in Greece. They make fun of us here because they said, how do you know who's a woman and who is a man? Because they go to the same doctors and get the same surgeries as the men that want to become a woman. They all look the same. Right. And I understand what they mean, because I do see a lot of them looking very similar, whether it's woman and woman or a man transitioning into a woman. And it's causing a lot of psychological issues, especially with younger men.
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And that topic is bottomless. I've been saying it for a long time that women who get these surgeries, they look like Transformers. It's like, and also I would even venture to say that what we understand a woman to be is too commercial. It's all the things you can buy. It's the lipstick, it's the eyelashes, it's the fingernails, it's the pedicure. It's all of these things that you purchase when in actual fact, and I forget how many different markers there are, but I think there's in excess of 1,000 different biological markers that defines the male and the female, which is to say you can't transition because your DNA still tells us that you're a male. You could get 1 million surgeries and there's still in excess of 1,000 biological markers that say this is male DNA. Heck, I mean, you said even in the female, we can find the male DNA from the guys that have been there. That's how clear it is.
Yes, exactly. And then only in very, very few instances, like real hermaphrodites, where I believe it's a mutation on I think it's like the SRY gene, the Y chromosome, where it will be a biological male, but the testes are inside and it has a vagina. Everything looks so, but that's a very, very rare instance. Like and there's the vice versa.
Like 0.0, like something crazy, right?
Yeah, it's very, very rare.
Exactly. And thank the Lord, because that is unfortunate. Shout out to Mr. Larios, writes, thank you for the education. Acknowledge Michael, writes, I appreciate you for having a qualified person on this topic. I appreciate the guest. And you know what? Vasilios, give me a promise that if a psychotic liberal reaches out to me and says, hey, no, I don't agree, I can host you for a debate or a discussion or just a run through the science with them.
I would love to. That would be fun.
That would be fun and potentially violent. We'll make sure we have some security here because they're crazy. But I think that what's that?
I said at times, yeah, I did a couple of tablings at ASU, and they do like to get violent.
Absolutely. Shout out to Dominic. He writes, can you tell us if there's a cognitive disability for the males who are simps? That's his first question.
Seriously and funny? Probably.
That's right. He writes, what's their mental? What's wrong with their mental? Much like the Instagram comments, why would they support and try to debunk the idea that body count matters biologically and scientifically?
I like one of the main comment that I put on there is probably because they are either realizing that their mother or their sister or their daughter aligns with this and they are in denial, but it's okay. That's how a lot of things start. But if they read more, they'll be okay with it. Hopefully they can help lessen that negative effect on the women around them. because as you can see, it was mostly the women who were very upset, but there were very good women in there as well.
Yes, yeah, there was some level of balance. There was evil, but also some good.
Yeah.
I like what you brought up, and I say this a lot, and people think that I'm only saying it in jest. I am saying it in jest, but I'm also saying it in all seriousness, which is, sometimes your mother is promiscuous, and it's okay to say that. Sometimes your father's an imbecile. It's okay to concede that, because it is what it is. And the worst thing we can do is to create a false consciousness and try to redefine morality just because we love or have affection for our parents or our friends or ourselves. And we really have to get closer to the truth. And we find so often when people strike out and attack you or attack the information you're bringing out, it's because of the emotions. It's because you're speaking to a situation of one of their loved ones. And we have to deal with the truth as it is. And, this is one of the things with me. I love women. I have the utmost respect for them, but I find it so challenging to deal with them in the workplace or just in the voting booth, because I have fear that the emotionalism is going to get in the way of the truth or what is like productive or ultimately good for society.
I agree. It's hard to. There are many instances, even for projects, men get accused, innocent men get accused of all types of things. So I was even scolded for not meeting with a single female late at night to go work on a project. Unfortunately, in today's times, I work too hard to put myself in that type of risk and jeopardy. So it's sad, because I'm sure it probably would have been fine, but you never know now, and everybody knows somebody who was affected by it.
And maybe it was fine when you had the meeting and the next year, but maybe 8 years down the road, it wasn't fine. Like when you become famous and rich, now it wasn't fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. It's a wild world we're in. May I acknowledge Stilo? He writes, I have a friend named Joseph Octaviani who specializes in natural medicine to heal. He has 150K followers on IG. Would you be willing to have him on? Possibly. I mean, depends on the relevance of the topics. So feel free to send over his information if it makes sense. It's possible. Shout out to Connor. He writes, peace and saints tuition to the big homie. You have an infinite amount of knowledge and wisdom that the world needs. I appreciate that. Thank you, Connor. Appreciate the compliment. And may I also acknowledge Dominic writes, why do the masses push the idea of altering yourself physically instead of trying to help yourself mentally? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think it has to do with the media, and a big chunk of it is social media now as well. And the people who control the algorithms, because we see here in America, the algorithms that are pushed promote whorish activities to
scientifically speaking.
Yeah. And funny videos like the jokers we talked about, the pranksters. Yes. That's what, or like inflammatory things to get people angry. That's what gets to the top of our social media. In China, that's not what's up there. Mm-hmm. The top videos that go viral there are engineers, scientists. None of the, again, for a nicer word, like promiscuous activities that men and women do. And I don't know who's responsible for that. Is it the head of these tech companies, or are they told to do that? I'm not sure, but it's definitely, you travel all over the world. I'm sure you've seen the differences. And like you said, the culture, the way the people act, it's very different than we act here.
Oh, it's extraordinary. One thing that I have trouble explaining to people when I'm in third world nations and they speak of the American ghetto or American poverty, they say, oh, you guys aren't really poor. I'm like, no, you're right. American poverty is very gentle. However, there's this unique thing in the American ghetto where the inhabitants tend to be more violent. So you can go through a ghetto or a slum in Tanzania, in Mumbai, in all these different countries. You can be in Georgia, the country of Georgia, not the state. And you'll find people who are legitimately poor, but they're not violent and they're not unwelcoming. And for some reason, as soon as you go into an American ghetto, you're in a place that's dangerous. And that is certainly culturally defined. And so there's a lot of remarkable things about culture. But one thing we can speculate on this. When you talk about the algorithm, and my background is in tech, you really want to design the algorithm in one or two ways, right? If you're trying to become wealthy, you want it to increase your daily active users and your dwell time, the amount of time spent in app or spent on the technology. And so you'll use whatever content is most engaging or salacious or, eye-catching or, whatever the case is. And I think, one, there's no doubt that the intelligence in the population is declining because the Fast and Furious franchise, I don't know how many of those dumbass movies they've made, and people are still watching them. It's extraordinary. But the algorithm is probably designed around the things that people actually want to engage with. I don't think it's creating taste. I think it's probably reflecting taste is my guess. Whereas, say, in China, where you have the Chinese Communist Party and you have leaders there today, like you would have had in 1950s and earlier America, where they're trying to guide the society, they're trying to maintain culture. And so they've already preset the mentality of the kids in elementary school, in families. And so the people are already calibrated to reject certain forms of filth, and the overall society has already put barriers to it. Like, for example, in South Korea, certainly in North Korea, and in other countries you'll find in the Middle East, they completely block adult content. And of course, if adult content is blocked, you can't even go to www.fillintheblankpornsite.com. Certainly, it's not there on social media. And in certain countries, Tinder itself is blocked. TikTok is blocked in India. So I think that there's those two pieces. There's one, there's no moral authority because we lack homogeneity. Not to say that we are a racially homogeneous country, but you had white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, WASPs, that used to guide the country. White meant something very specific. It might not have included Jewish. It might not have included initially Italians, might not have included Irish, which is crazy. And so like white got redefined so many times, but every time it got redefined, it got watered down. And the definition of who was leading the country and what the American culture is based on innovation, based on work ethic, based on the Protestant work ethic. And then they stopped forcing people to assimilate. So you have people coming from backward countries. You didn't teach them what it is to be an American. Whereas, like, say, if we're all Greek and we live in Greece, well, this is our blood and our culture for generations back to time immemorial. Whereas when people show up to America, we don't share blood, we don't share religion, we don't share culture. You have to teach them what it is to be an American, or else they're going to get it wrong. And they're going to bring their backward culture from whatever backward place they fled. And that's what we're dealing with today, are the results of a culture of people who have fled somewhere bad, and they're making America into that place. And then their bad culture is being reflected in the social media because there's no Walter Cronkite. They're not vetting people based on qualification. They let everyone have a voice. It's democratic in some way. And then our leadership class is not of one group, say white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, that are pushing out a morality or a way of being. I would say in short, but that was not short.
No, I agree. I guess just to sum it, to make sure that I'm on the same page. So what you're saying is kind of we're diluting America as well with thought, and that's changing it. Yes?
I mean, America is lost.
Because we've always been, but...
America was always an idea, right? It was a set of values and ideas, and those values and ideas are absent. And even the persons we look to reflect those values and ideas are at some level a bit questionable. Now, me, I'm pro-Trump for a variety of reasons, primarily financial. And also I do like the concept of America being an empire and me being within the empire. But, frankly, you have a guy who symbolizes what Americans used to strive for, being rich, empowered. He's like the traditional sign of American power, big, tall, white guy, rich as shit, and says what he wants to say, does what he wants to do. But then he's also married to, like, consistently married to Eastern European women, which, like, not American, real Americans, have accents. Like Melania, I can barely understand her half the time. And Eastern European women are gorgeous, for the record, in case anybody's wondering. I understand why he's doing this. And then you have Elon Musk there, who is, in fact, a South African, which is a radically different culture than us. And the first thing you notice when you travel out of America, for those of you who don't travel enough, is that you can be a Black person in America, and then you go to Africa, you're going to immediately realize, God damn, we're not the same. I'm a different kind of Black. Or if you're a white person in America and you leave and you go to Italy or you go to Germany, you're immediately like, this is a different kind of white. Like, white is not a thing. Like, I'm an American, you're a German. Like, I'm an American, you're Albanian. Like, white is not a real concept, just as Black is not a real concept, in as much as, like, we're not ethnically the same. We don't have the same history. And so anyways, with today, our leadership class isn't even on the same page culturally, ethnically, religiously. And so what America was can't really be recreated from them. I mean, you have J.D. Vance is married to an Indian woman. And I'm not saying racial mixing or racial cooperation is a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's so much diversity there. How could we ever expect these people to be on the same page to give us a single message? When you're dealing with Xi Jinping in China, he is a dictator. Everyone he's running is pretty much Han Chinese. And there's some things you don't have to explain because we're all Han Chinese. When we walk inside the house, everyone's taking their shoes off. Like, no one has to remind anybody. In an American house, some people take their shoes off. Some people don't take their shoes off. Some people get in the bed with their shoes on. Some people think dogs inside is filthy. Some people think dogs inside is necessary. The dog is a part of my family. And so because you don't have that, and there's no one group dominating, and the group that used to dominate are now sleepwalkers, which is to say the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, fucking sleepwalkers now. Like, they are not what they used to be, right? The white male, he once was the slave master. Imagine going from the slave master to now the white woman is running affairs, and you feel like you can't speak up. You went from whipping the crap out of everybody and listen, the slave master was so empowered. Not only did he cheat on his wife, he cheated on her with the slaves, and the evidence was clear because of the slaves created light-skinned kids, and you just carried on like nothing happened. And now the white liberal woman is like the most dangerous character on earth. So we've seen a fall of the white male patriarch. We've seen the disintegration of the certain interpretations of Christianity, a splintering into many sects. And so as a result, there's not one value-based group that can carry the American concept. And that's why we're suffering so badly. Like me, I'm even torn because it's like, I consider myself a patriot. I'm very much so a nationalist. I love America, but I don't trust the government at all. I'm suspicious of the police. I don't think that they're there to help anyone. I don't think our tax funds are used effectively. And so it's like, it's so hard to find anything to hold on to in this country. I'll yield all of that talk to you. What are your thoughts?
I agree with almost every single thing. It is hard to trust the government and the people running everything after so many years, because we've only seen a decline no matter who's in office. Even if it bumps up, we still overall see a decline. And like we talked about earlier, unfortunately, people are losing the ability to decipher between real and fake information. And I want to bring this up too, with a lot of people think men are the violent ones in the relationship. And I don't know if you've touched on this before, but they're not. The studies have concluded that. They tested heterosexual couples, lesbian couples, and gay men couples. And the lowest rates of violence getting put in jail was the gay couples. The highest by far was the women, the lesbian couple. So what that means is that it's not the man, it's the woman who's usually violent. They usually make things up and exaggerate, and it gets the man in trouble. And I don't mean
make things up and exaggerate. That lying, right? Tell me more. Tell me more.
So it's gonna change a lot of things here in the near future, I think. And I hope that we can help them understand and see the truth in reality, and not in La La Land. To be nice.
This testing, and we have to we got to stay in touch, and I'd love to see how this is commercialized, because I certainly want to be a part of it, especially if it ever comes to, like, I've seen like certain things progress in a beautiful way. Like, for example, I think HIV testing has like a rapid test you can do at home. Is that correct? I'm not making that up.
I believe they do now. You can even buy them like at Walgreens and CVS. You can buy, and then you want to get it double checked by
you better. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same thing with like a pregnancy test. You're still going to go to the doctor even if it says positive.
And that's a huge jump from where it was. And so it takes it to a level of convenience, privacy, and of course, commercialization, to where it can be in every CVS store. And people are definitely going to use it. And I think that what you're talking about will be the same. You know, just imagining the idea that if you meet a young lady, especially for the religious communities, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, the Joangers, the Amish probably won't use this because it's technology, but you know, the Muslims and all those folks, and you meet a woman and she says she's a virgin, and you say, oh, okay, well, awesome. You know, like, put this strip under your tongue and, you know, let's find out what the numbers are. I mean, I kid you not, this is a true story, and it's just outrageous. I was in Morocco, and in the Kingdom of Morocco, I met a young lady. She said, hey, Marquett, I just want to let you know I'm very interested in you. I would be thankful to have a marriage with you, but I want to let you know right now that I'm not going to get the surgery. I was like, the surgery? She was like, yeah, a lot of women in my country, they get surgery to repair the hymen, so that they can be viewed as virgins on their marital day, just in case, you know, the sheets are reviewed. So I just want to let you know, I don't want to get that surgery. I'm not a virgin. I have had intercourse one time before with a guy that I thought I was going to marry. And one, I'd never even known this surgery was possible, but just the fact that people get it regularly enough to where she had to make a declaration, I thought was extraordinary. And the fact that women are lying about it. And there's also data on the fact that so many males today, I think it was a third of men on child support, are paying child support for children that are not their own.
That's funny. I was going to bring that up. I saw it was like upwards of 40-something% of that it's not even their own child. And this is going to benefit more men than anything. And the foundation children is there, and children a lot. Yes, oh my gosh. Yes. Especially for the developing mind. Critical age is between up to 10 years old. You can make a kid a genius. You can make a kid a sociopath. It all depends how that kid is molded those first 10 years. You can make them learn 10 languages with no accent. It's amazing. And the foundation is there for the science. We already have similar types of testing. So it's interesting why it's not been pursued. So if any other scientists want to get together and make this happen, we can. All we need is minds and money. That's it.
Minds and money. There you go. And I guess that's been historically true. Shout out to Jeremy. Jeremy comes in by Venmo with a baller alert. He writes, just sending support. We appreciate you. And, you know, these are the kind of conversations that are rare. Shout out to Kyle. He writes, does the delivery method affect the influence of the male RNA that the male RNA has on the female? I was censored for using the proper term, but mouth, rear, and front. That's a really, really good question.
That did come up in the comments as well. And from what I understand, I do want to see more studies on it, but the mouth breaks it down into its biomolecular motors, and it's ingested, and the stomach acid would kill some of it in there. But if it gets absorbed into around the mouth, it shows that it is possible through ingestion as well. I am not 100% sure about the back door. I didn't see anything that tested that, but who knows?
Soon you will. Soon you will.
Yeah, soon we will know.
Right. Shout out to Dominic. He writes, Sass or nothing. Shout out to the lady saints who listen and to the saints who share. Absolutely. We appreciate all of you. Patrick writes, check email business question. How do I get the Sass and logos you sent me converted to a vector file or AI file? Just tell the manufacturers that you don't have a vector file. You have a high quality PNG and that they need to work with that. And that's what it is. May I acknowledge Vernell? He writes, tuition, appreciate you. Shout out to those folks supporting this meaningful conversation. May I also acknowledge King Florio writes, all of a sudden random page reload crashes when I'm listening to your channel. I'm not surprised. Okay, I think we're caught up there. Now let's get back to this. So I want to look at a few more comments because I haven't seen anyone actually try to challenge you on the science. Swagmaster wrote about Reuters, and then you wrote, if you want to challenge established science, bring actual evidence with a DOI. Oh, and someone in the chat asked about DOI. Would you mind defining that for the folks?
Okay, so a DOI is a digital object identifier. So it's basically like a unique barcode for digital content like research papers and articles. It's a permanent, like reliable link to the source, and it can't be like changed or like broken. So you can always get back to it after it's been published.
That is awesome. I'm really happy that someone asked it. I'm glad you shared that because that is important stuff for folks to know. And we really have to start arming people with that. And one of the things I always talk to folks about, because people like to try to contradict me left and right, because everyone in the audience is a genius, apparently. Half of them work at Walmart, but they're still geniuses. But I always say, if you're going to contradict me, I have no problem with that, but state your argument, not your conclusion. Provide an argument, a logic, a rationale, preferably some evidence. And so we really need to get in the habit of, when we speak, to provide evidence and also to demand of others that they provide evidence as a standard, because we have too many people mouthing off in a time that is essentially called the information age. We have an infinite access to information. And also, as you spoke of earlier, people need to be reminded, and any of us who went to a decent high school would know this, certainly a university, that there's levels to the quality of information, and certainly Wikipedia, Reuters, popular media, CNN, Fox News, these are not scholarly sources. And so people have to understand the difference between a peer-reviewed journal that is written by people in that field versus something random. Just because it's published doesn't mean that it's reliable. And also, I would like to just say psychology is a pseudoscience, and it was certainly verified as such in, I think it was like 1973, early 70s, when there was protests. And that's when they removed from the DSM the definition of LGBTQs, all those sexually deviant practices, as mental ailments. And they only remove things or put things in when there's peer-reviewed article or peer-reviewed journal articles. And this was the time that they didn't do that. So since then, I can't say that I want to legitimize anything that they say. But aside from that, proper biological sciences, neuroscience, all this other stuff, yes, bring forward evidence and then we can engage it. That is the standard we should all be on. Any comments on that?
I agree 100% because scientific study, unlike scientific studies, media outlets like Reuters and Snopes and other journalistic organizations, they do provide valuable information, but they're not scientific authorities. So while the outlets are often they're often driven by agendas and influenced by editorial decisions, or like we talked before, usually financially motivated. So rather than being purely focused on objective research and evidence, they focus on the end dollar. So when it comes to scientific discussions, it's important to rely on primary sources with DOIs rather than secondary media reports of people who aren't scientists.
And the challenge is that popular outlets, one, we do know that maybe JSTOR or whatever things are popular nowadays cost money. You have to have a subscription to access the information. And so that's a challenge, one, in terms of just access to good information. And I understand that if someone does proper research, it should be protected. There are years going into that. But the challenge is that when you look at the popular sources, they're going to simplify the research. Sometimes they're going to misinterpret the research. And sadly, that is what creates the narratives that affect the masses. Those in the ivory tower who might be closer to the truth, they're often not as popular or as well known. Like, for example, figures like Dr. Jordan Peterson, who I think he's done a lot of good, actually. But when he's sharing information, I can tell who's went to university and who hasn't, because people who have not went to university, they're so impressed. And I'm just like, yo, this is the most basic stuff. You would have heard this in year one of university. He's not shared any new ideas at all. Not to say he doesn't have any, but it just reminds me the fact that there is not a free flow of information. And not to say if there was, people would understand it. And the popular sources are the problem. For example, people often ask me, hey, Marquett, have you read Robert Greene? I'm like, Robert, yeah, I've read his like books, but they're just knockoffs of more sophisticated or interesting works like Machiavelli. Like he just rewrote The Prince of Machiavelli. Like he literally just rewrote it more simply for you to understand and use modern references. Like it's a knockoff. And like, for example, you'll look at guys like Malcolm Gladwell. No disrespect to Malcolm Gladwell. He has books like Blink and others. And you read through it, he's just made more sophisticated knowledge accessible to the masses, but he's basically bootlegged the ideas of other people, typically scholars. And so there's the disconnect between people who are sophisticated scholars and then the people who are those who interpret the information to the mainstream, often leaving out critical things.